Inside the Magic, show number 419 for April 14th, 2013. It is Sunday, April 14th, 2013, and this is show 419 of Inside the Magic. It's also our 8th anniversary. Can you believe it? It's been 8 years of doing this week in and week out. Hopefully you're all still very much enjoying the show. Of course, if you weren't, you probably wouldn't still be tuning in. But anyway, let's get on with it here. Of course, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti, and we do have another great show packed with a lot of Disney and theme park fun. And before we jump right into all of that, I do invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcast, videos, photos, news, articles, and a whole lot more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, anything else you want to send in, you can always write to me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. And this week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Now is the time to book your summer vacation and check out the new Fantasyland. Save up to 30% at select Walt Disney World Resort hotels for stays most nights from June 13th through August 14th. And you can add a minimum 4-day Magic Your Way ticket to make it a package and get a discount on the tickets too. Do all that by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote, and be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And thanks very much to all of our contributors to the show, be it a donation or clicking through the affiliate links over on our website. It all supports the show, and I thank you very much for all of it. And now, let's get started with a trip around the world. So this week has been a very different sort of week for many reasons. One, there wasn't a whole lot of news, but being an anniversary show, I do have plenty of fun in store for you this week, and a little bit of news as well. But even beyond that, for 4 nights this week, I actually took a little bit of a vacation for once. This wasn't even a working trip, it was just an actual vacation, and I had a chance to sail the Disney Cruise Line for the first time as just a regular old passenger, which was nice. And, I'll still be, of course, talking about that experience here on the show very soon, not this week, but it's a very, very different experience to be on the ship, on the Disney Dream, which I hadn't been, it's been 2 years since the inaugural voyage of the Disney Dream, and on that trip, it was only a 2-nighter. It was the media cruise, and it was work, pictures and videos and interviews and all of that stuff for solid. It was absolutely exhausting. So this time it was definitely a chance to be much, much more relaxed and sort of kick back and just enjoy the trip. And with that came some different experiences, very, very good ones at that. So I'll be talking about that kind of a Disney Dream Cruise update in the near future. But not this week. Although this week I do have a little bit about the Disney Cruise Line to share here. Something that, it's not quite news yet, but it's a possibility for the future. There's a lot of rumors going around, especially around the crew aboard the Disney Dream, and even from what I understand on the Fantasy, that sometime in the future, there may be more Disney Cruise Line ships on the way. Some of the staff was even pretty set on telling me that they may even be around by 2015 or 2016, that 2 new ships could be sort of in-between sized ships, a little bit bigger than the Magic and the Wonder, a little bit smaller than the Dream and the Fantasy. I tried to ask as many crew members aboard the ship once I sort of caught wind of that, whatever I could. Of course, take it all with a grain of salt. It is just rumor for now. There's been talk of new Disney Cruise Line ships for quite a while. Of course, everybody would love to see more Disney ships on the way. No announcements, no confirmation, nothing like that. So, just a rumor at this point. But certainly, it seems like just about everybody on board the ship is thinking that is coming. But what is much more solid than that is that a couple of weeks from now, during Walt Disney World's Monstrous Summer Press event that's taking place here, it's at Walt Disney World, of course, they are going to have a Disney Cruise Line announcement. It's not going to be anything about new ships. I've been told that. However, what it's likely going to be is about upgrades to the Magic and Wonder cruise ships, the two older Disney Cruise Line ships. Apparently, they're going to be going through and sprucing up much of their restaurants, perhaps even their staterooms, and maybe even adding some sort of new fun attraction like the Aqueduct. Don't say, I'm not saying for sure any of that is happening. It is not announced yet, but, stay tuned. In a couple of weeks, we'll get the official announcement and know exactly what's going to be coming for those ships, or perhaps any other surprises that may be coming. All Disney's saying at this point is that they are definitely going to have a Disney Cruise Line announcement in a couple of weeks. So pretty exciting there. And of course, looking way, way, way in the future, it would not surprise anybody if Disney had more ships, whether it's in those years or any other years to come. Seems inevitable that Disney will be adding to their fleet eventually, but for now, the Dream and the Fantasy are certainly the stars of the show, and it seems like Disney is wanting to bring the Magic and Wonder up to the glory of the Dream and Fantasy as well, with some improvements in the near future. So we'll find out soon enough. Now, that's all, of course, very good news, but some not-so-great news also came out of the world of Disney this week, where, once again, it's just like several years ago. As I said, this is our 8th anniversary show, and I feel like we've been down this path already during this 8 years. Disney this week laid off a whole bunch of hand-drawn animators, 2D traditional animators, including several veterans, were laid off in sort of a new game plan, if you will, looking toward the future of Disney animation, looking more toward CG. Tangled certainly did very well. The upcoming movie Frozen is a CG film as well. And even Paperman, which looked, the short film looked like hand-drawn animation. It was done using CG. So even sort of that style can be emulated in CG. And then, of course, Wreck-It Ralph, again, CG, very successful. So seems like, once again, we're moving away from 2D hand-drawn traditional animation at the Walt Disney Company and in favor of CG. Fortunately, this time around, the movies that are coming out in CG are much, much better than the ones last time we had this discussion. Of course, In Between, The Princess and the Frog came out, which I absolutely loved. That was hopefully not the last 2D hand-drawn animated film to come out of Disney. I doubt it will be, but for now it seems likely, as those traditional animators are being laid off, unfortunately. Now for this week's update on Limited Time Magic. Of course, this week out at Disneyland was the Long Lost Friends Week. A lot of fun characters to be met out there. Meanwhile, out here at Walt Disney World, there was a truck store available to buy stuff from. So next week, it's going to be the same Limited Time Magic at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland. It's going to be Fairies Week, of course, the Disney Fairies. It's April 15th through April 21st. And at Walt Disney World, at the Magic Kingdom, at Tinkerbell's Magical Nook, as well as at Disneyland and Pixie Hollow. You'll have a chance to meet Tinkerbell, Iridessa, Rosetta, Silvermist, Fawn, Vidya, and even Terrence. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, aren't these characters already in the park? Well, it seems like they're going to be more readily available, perhaps all together, perhaps on a more, clear rotation. And I think some of the characters have been gone for a while. They've had, they come and go over time. So now they're all coming back for this week only. So if you're a big fan of the Disney Fairies, you're going to want to head out to the parks next week. Another special event coming up out here at Walt Disney World is another anniversary, not just our 8th anniversary here, but Animal Kingdom is going to be celebrating its 15th anniversary on Earth Day, of course, April 22nd, and in celebration of that, there will be a special opening ceremony at the Tree of Life at 8:40 a.m., featuring Josh D'Amaro, the current Vice President of Disney's Animal Kingdom, as well as Dr. Jackie Ogden, the Vice President of Animal Science and Environment, and Imagineer Joe Rohde, the Senior Vice President of Walt Disney Imagineering Creative. Now, there have been some rumors flying around this week that some people have spotted the Yeti over at Expedition Everest in full working form, but nothing confirmed there. Wouldn't it be fun if for the 15th anniversary the Yeti actually returned as he should, but somehow I doubt it. In addition to the opening ceremony in the morning, there will be an Earth Day Earth Day party for the planet festivities, including interactive activities from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Artists Quest and other vendors will present their work over in Africa and on Discovery Island. There will also, of course, be limited merchandise, limited quantity merchandise for the 15th anniversary, and some special food and drinks. Those details are still forthcoming. It seems like just yesterday we were celebrating the 10th anniversary of Animal Kingdom when Jane Goodall was there, and of course Joe Rohde as well. And now 5 years later, here we are, 15th anniversary. Meanwhile, over at the Magic Kingdom this week, Walt Disney Imagineering put a video online via the Disney Parks blog, a sneak peek of the interactive quest going into Adventureland, A Pirate's Adventure, Treasures of the Seven Seas. That's going to debut at the Magic Kingdom sometime this summer, so still a few weeks away, likely, for that official debut. The video they put online is very, very much filled with spoilers. I didn't even want to watch the whole thing because I started to, and I was like, whoa, you're showing off all the cool effects. I want to try it and be surprised for myself. So if you do want, you're not going to be there anytime soon, you want to see it, head over to Disney Parks blog to see sort of a sneak peek of what this interactive Pirate's Adventure is all about. Here's actually a question from one of our listeners, Jace, who writes in and says, I have two questions for you. Is there a possibility of a Phineas and Ferb ride, or in general, a Disney television-themed ride at the parks, or a character meet and greet and small attraction, or is character meet and greets and small attractions the extent of Disney television in the parks? And my second question is, Disney has bought Pixar, Marvel, and now Lucasfilm. Who do you think they'll buy next? Well, as far as your first question, Jace, the reason I included this up here in the news section of the show rather than a listener feedback a bit later is because there definitely has been some consideration to creating a Phineas and Ferb attraction or ride, rather. Of course, there is Phineas and Ferb in the form of the Agent P interactive adventure around the World Showcase that took over for the Kim Possible thing. And over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, you're right, there's a meet and greet with Phineas and Ferb as well. But as for a ride, there's been a concept floating around Walt Disney Imagineering to take the Imagination Pavilion and that classic Figment ride and turn it into a Phineas and Ferb ride. In fact, there's even concept art that has been sort of found its way out, courtesy of Theme Park Connection, the store here in Orlando that sells, Disney surplus items. They, a few weeks ago, got a piece of concept art in from an Imagineer at Disney, of course, along with a bunch of other items, and it was around the time that New Fantasyland was opening that they received this in, and it shows some Phineas and Ferb items being installed or having been installed in this artwork around and sort of taking place of the Imagination area, Phineas and Ferb Topiary, and a lot of stuff that relates to that show. Now, of course, this is not announced or anything, and the fact that this concept art made its way out to the public, and it seems unlikely that they'll actually be following through on that, or that artwork really would have never left the halls of Imagineering. But it is, interesting that Disney is in fact considering something like that for the Imagination Pavilion. Whether or not it ever happens remains to be seen. As far as your second question there, Disney bought Pixar and Marvel and Lucasfilm. Who will they buy next? Well, boy, is that a good question, because I never in a million years would have thought they would have bought Lucasfilm, or Marvel for that matter. Pixar seemed, a natural acquisition, but Marvel and Lucasfilm, that was a far stretch. So, I mean, if you really want to go out on a limb, let's say they're going to buy DreamWorks. I highly doubt that will ever happen, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. It would surprise me if there was another major acquisition in the near future, considering the huge expense of purchasing both Marvel and Lucasfilm. Those haven't entirely paid off yet. Marvel's in the process, and Lucasfilm's still way down the line with the coming Star Wars films. So anyway, that's about it for that. But speaking of Marvel, moving on in the news here, but out in California, something new opened up in Innoventions at the Disneyland Park this week. It was Iron Man Tech, presented by Stark Industries. It's really the first appearance of some major Marvel something in the parks. It's not an attraction. It is, it kind of is an attraction, but it's not a ride. It's not a show. It's just a fairly small exhibit within Innoventions that shows off Tony Stark's Hall of Armor, pretty much the same thing that was shown off at the San Diego Comic-Con last July. It shows the actual suits used in the film. You can get really up close to them and examine them and check them out and see all the incredibly detailed work that was put into them when shooting the films. And then also new to this was not at Comic-Con, is the chance to virtually suit up in the Iron Man outfits via a sort of interactive screen. So it's a fairly small installation or exhibit for Innoventions, but it's definitely the beginning of Marvel in the parks, and the reception has been huge. Lots and lots of people have been lined up outside Innoventions, which is a rare occurrence. Most of the time Innoventions really doesn't have anybody caring about it out there at Disneyland. So for their lines to be wrapping outside the building and people lining up for a very long time to see this, there are some banners outside showing Stark Industries and Iron Man and all of that. People are excited. This is a big deal. Marvel is huge. The Avengers films, certainly Iron Man 3 coming up very soon, very, very big, and a lot of people are excited. So I think this is just the small beginning of what's to come for Marvel in the parks in the future. Of course, just developing this weekend was something that was also not so good for Disneyland. While the Iron Man thing has been very popular in Tomorrowland, Space Mountain, it's been popular for a different reason. The California Department of Occupational Safety and Health cited Disney for a number of kind of behind-the-scenes, backstage violations, safety issues concerning their employees and the way that they are maintaining Space Mountain as well as Splash Mountain and Soarin', and fined Disneyland hundreds of thousands of dollars. Disney, in response, has shut down temporarily Space Mountain and a couple other attractions in order to get these up to code, essentially, these areas. So Disneyland is working on it, and I'm sure they'll get the attractions back up and running very, very soon. But certainly not a good thing to go to the parks and discover that Space Mountain is down because of, safety concerns, but not guest safety, just a backstage kind of maintenance issue. Safety as far as like walkways and railings and that kind of thing. Very similar to what was going on over at Alice in Wonderland that caused, forced essentially Disney to put up lots of extra barriers and railings and platforms around the outdoor track of the Alice in Wonderland dark ride in Fantasyland, which still remains that way today. Codes change over time and safety rules get stronger and stronger, and it just, it seems like they just simply have to deal with it. So the same thing's going on here. Fortunately, it really doesn't have anything to do with the guest areas. And with this being the 8th anniversary of Inside the Magic here, this weekend is also the 30th anniversary of Tokyo Disneyland. And they're planning a bit of celebration there as well. Of course, I'm here in Orlando, so I'm not exactly reporting on Tokyo's festivities, but it is going on overseas. Someday I'll have a chance to get out there. I'm really looking forward to that happening eventually. No firm plans by any means at this point, but, maybe by the 35th anniversary or something. Regardless, 30 years. It's certainly an impressive milestone there. And final bit of news this week comes in actually from listener Tiara, who writes, I love your show, and I know you're a huge Tron Uprising fan, and since the show got canceled, it's been so sad for all the fans, but there's a company trying to bring the show back. All it needs is for fans to vote and bring it back, and then they will go and advocate for a crowdfunding project. It's pretty cool, and thought with your support it might actually get off the ground. It's through a website called smgo.tv. The actual address to go and vote for Tron Uprising to sort of get the wheels in motion to potentially return someday would be smgo.tv/shows/Tron-Uprising. And I'll be sure to post that on Twitter and Facebook and all of that. There's no cost, there's no money to donate, there's nothing. All at this point is just simply voting and saying, yes, we want more Tron Uprising. And so I certainly voted, and I encourage everybody to do the same because the show was really, really good and it really deserved a second season. And that'll do it for news from around the world this week. This week's tip comes in from Anthony, who writes, if you're trying to find the 2013 dates for Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party at the Magic Kingdom on the official Disney Parks page, you are out of luck. But a helpful cast member told me to look at the calendar page when Magic Kingdom is scheduled to close at 7 p.m. during later September, and then that should be a party night. Hopefully this helps with scheduling and with dining reservations, as we are within 180 days now. Anthony, great tip. trip. Definitely, you can wait, of course, and for Disney to announce the official dates for Not So Scary, for the Very Merry Christmas Party, and try to plan your trip around it that way. Or you can do exactly what you said, be a little savvy, check out those park closing times, and, it's not 100% guaranteed because the park potentially could be closing early for another function, a private renting out of the park, something like that. Most likely, you'd be pretty safe knowing, looking, sort of at the general scope of the days and seeing on which nights those will take place before that official announcement. Everybody else, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. Now, this week I've got a few special guests to be joining me here very shortly for our 8th anniversary celebration. But before I get to that, let me put in a quick word about Capturing Magic, a pair of iPhone apps that are the ultimate tool for documenting and recording the magic of your Disney vacation. Whether you're at Disneyland in California or Walt Disney World out here in Florida, Capturing Magic offers a helpful list of photo opportunities and memories to capture before, during, and after your trip. It is the perfect way to ensure that you don't miss a magical moment. And for a limited time, the apps are on sale for more than 50% off. So it's pretty simple to get and less expensive than ever. So simply head on over to the iTunes store, search for Capturing Magic, and make your little purchase and have fun playing with it. Continuing our 8th anniversary show this week, I thought it would be most fitting to bring back, once again, Skipper Ben. Of course, he was with the show for many, many years, took a little bit of time off, and now he's back, and we're going to kind of look back a little bit over the last 8 years about some of the fun things that have happened in the Disney universe and beyond. Ben, thanks for coming back.
What is the 8th anniversary? Is that like... what are we supposed to get each other? Is that the annual pass anniversary or
right? Well, I think there's like the premium and the premier pass, and that premier one is gold, right? So maybe that would work.
Something like that. But I think that's like 10 or 15 or 20. We got a ways to go for that one. So.
Right. 8th, maybe a Dole Whip.
Maybe it's Dole Whip's perfect for me. I'll take that.
Yeah, I would take that for every anniversary, actually. But no, so, 8 years, it really has flown by. To think back to sort of the early days of Inside the Magic, you came along, maybe 4 or 5 months into the show?
I don't even know if it was that long, to be honest with
not.
you. Yeah, and the sad part is I remember exactly where I was. I can tell you the exact treadmill at the YMCA I was on the first time I heard your show. So, it's been a big part of our lives, that's for sure, and almost to the point that I don't know. It's kind of, I don't even want to call it sad looking back, but like I said, it has flown by.
It really has, and I mean, even putting it in terms of, and this is it's hard to look back at your own life and think, what was I doing, 8 years ago, or even a week ago, for that matter. But thinking back in terms of sort of the universe of theme parks, very early on in Inside the Magic, sort of one of the biggest first things that happened was the opening of Expedition Everest. So if you put it in that terms, you can think about how long ago that ride opened.
The thing I was thinking about driving home tonight before recording the show was remembering what I listened to the show on the first time ever and how technology's changed in those 8 years. The big bulky iPod that I had and how,
right.
At the time it seemed very convenient and it was the coolest thing in the world that I had to, seek out the show, download it, plug in my iPod, transfer it over. Now that just seems so tough for me, as far as just, firing up your iPhone now and streaming it, through iTunes. You can have it instantly. But back then, it was the coolest thing in the world that we had access to these shows that were specially talking about topics that only, that I cared about. So, that was the thing that really, I was thinking about attractions opening and hotels and this and that. But I was like, at the same time going, man, remember that huge, bulky, probably 8 gig iPod that I listened to on the first time, and where we are now. That's crazy.
It is, and even thinking back over the show itself, I've certainly upgraded my own equipment over the years. I mean, at the beginning, I was using some, very simple microphones and stuff I had lying around, or this cheap stuff, and even so much as putting the show up online and figuring out the whole podcasting thing. Now I've got this very elaborate website and a database driving it all, and this and that, and then it was all like hard coding every single page every week, and it was just very, very basic. And thinking about sort of the days of that, it was simpler. But it was, it's been a while. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's come a long way, and just how rich we've gotten off of the show.
Oh, yeah, of course,
what?
right. Uh-huh.
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
We do it for love.
Yeah, those royalty checks you're getting every week for the reruns. Oh, absolutely.
When are we hitting syndication?
Yeah, right. But no, so, I'm thinking about sort of major things that have been going on over the last few years. There's certainly been a lot out here at Walt Disney World, and we're not going to sit here and recount everything that has opened in the theme parks for the last 8 years, or we would be here for a very long time. But one of the projects to think about that's kind of fun is, okay, we're talking about an 8-year span here. 5 of those 8 years out in California was the makeover of Disney California Adventure. It's kind of fun to think about how a very large chunk of Inside the Magic history has been watching that park evolved from something that was not so great. And I even remember going very, very early on to Inside the Magic or in the shows to going out to Disneyland for my very first sort of recordings there. And I didn't spend a lot of time at California Adventure. Whereas now today with that project done, I can't wait to get back there.
Yeah, and a little bit on my history, especially with the California parks, was I had never even been to Disneyland. I'd never been to California when the show started.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And now I've been several times, including a kind of secret surprise trip about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, very nice. And so I understand that was especially a good trip for you, not only because it was a surprise and you're at Disneyland, but you also had a chance to see some of these new things that you had not seen before.
Yes, last time I was there about 2 years ago, and it was Disney's World of Green Walls Adventure. I think is what
Yeah.
I called it best back then because it was just green walls everywhere. Couldn't see anything. I saw little mountain peaks for Cars Land, but had no access to anything. And then this trip, I that was my first stop, was getting from the airport, getting in my car, and getting over to California Adventure as fast as I could to experience all the new stuff. And I don't think I'm making any major headlines to anyone here when I say that it's awesome. I love the new park.
It really is. And for me, going out there multiple times, many times over the last 5 years, little by little, sort of covering all the milestones throughout that 5-year upgrade project, it really, really started to come together over the last couple of years since you were last there. What was it like for you having seen the old entranceway, the old sort of, kitschy postcard California Beach Boys theme, and then the next time you return, the total makeover into Buena Vista Street?
I didn't hate the old entranceway. I liked the Golden Gate Bridge entry and all that stuff. I didn't hate it by any means, but when you compare it to Buena Vista Street now, there's no comparison. The new entranceway is just timeless. It's classic. It's something that Walt would want in one of his parks. And I was just blown away by it. As I first entered the first time, there's the trolley right in front of me. And it just gave me that perfect sense to take everything in. It gives it that distinct feeling of being in California and it finally has that Main Street entrance that makes, all the other Magic Kingdoms so successful. It really sets the tone for what you're going to experience for the rest of the park, and you don't feel like it's kind of thrown together real cheaply and real quickly. They put the time, they put the detail in it, and it's beautiful.
Very, very true. I absolutely love it. I love spending time on Buena Vista Street, watching the street entertainment, as you said, the red car trolleys, and just, looking in all the little details and the windows and the stores and just kind of wandering around the area. And the music is certainly a vast improvement over that, sort of annoying California-themed loop that used to be there.
Yeah, no, the entertainment, the street entertainment really surprised me. It's not something I was expecting. Literally, this trip came together within about 3 days of me actually being in the park. I had to go out for some last minute work, and unfortunately, it was a 1-day trip. I had about 7 hours in the parks.
Okay,
and so I had to go fast. I had to go real quick through everything. But luckily, I am going back out for a 3-day trip in early June or late June, and we'll be able to experience everything more. But I had to kind of go through, and this was like the Cliff Notes version of running through California Adventure and trying to check off as many things I could and experience it, for a few minutes here and there, but knowing I'll get to go back and take it all in later. But the entertainment was something that I did not know was as readily available on Buena Vista Street as it is. And I did catch myself twice, just completely stopping and listening to the music and taking in the show because it was that good.
It really is. I love Five and Dime. You know, when they pull up and perform their little jazz routine right in the middle of Carthay Circle, it's one of those things that I could be walking anywhere in the park, in the area, trying to get to something, and if they're there, I'm stopping and I'm watching.
Yeah, it's, I'm a big fan of Streetmosphere. I'm a big fan of, I love the Disney Hollywood Studios entranceway and just that kind of classic timeless feel, and felt they took a lot of those ideas from the Disney Hollywood Studios and incorporated it into Buena Vista Street, which to me is a win-win. A great idea to do that.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that because you are, a former cast member of it was Disney MGM Studios, of course, and there are a lot of comparisons to be drawn between today's Disney California Adventure, the entrance area and up that street, and what is now Disney's Hollywood Studios from the turnstiles onward. Make that comparison for me for somebody who spent a lot of time in the park here versus your brief amount of time there.
Well, I don't know if I can. I think I need to take a little bit more in there because I think some of the details I did, it was, again, walk quick through, catch as much as I could.
Right.
There was enough there that I sensed that, wow, yeah, this idea is from here, this idea is from there. Just the structure, the architecture of the buildings, the palette of the colors, even, it gave you very much a Disney Hollywood Studios feel on the entranceway, especially going down like the Sunset Boulevard area, the expansion that they did off of the original park opening. So I do think I need a little bit more time in there to give you a real good comparison. But again, I don't think, I don't know if you ever hear any complaints about the entranceway of the Disney Hollywood Studios. I never do. It just seems like in that park, it seems like it's perfect and it fits perfect. And at the same time, I think it's, the same sense over at California Adventure. It just feels like this needs to be in this park to tell the story of California, to tell about the arrival of Walt to California. It feels perfect.
And best of all, at the end of Buena Vista Street, there's a grand fountain and Carthay Circle and no giant sorcerer hat to be found.
Give them time.
Right, yeah. That would just be a complete catastrophe if they.
Walt's going to turn 200 one of these days.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's great. Don't give him any ideas. But no, and I'm wondering. Obviously you've been to Cars Land as well. Now we can get to some of your thoughts on that here in a minute. But thinking about Disney's Hollywood Studios a little bit more, would you like to see some of what has gone on at Disney California Adventure make its way out here to Florida? Now, do you think Hollywood Studios needs sort of the California Adventure treatment?
Oh, it's a matter of time before these are just basically two mirror parks, in my opinion. All the major attractions from California Adventure are going to end up at Hollywood Studios, and the ones from the Hollywood Studios, such as Tower of Terror, are already ending up, out in California. So, just look at the name, Disney Hollywood Studios. Even if they change it to Disney Studios at some point, there is a calling out to California in the name in the Florida park. So it's not crazy. It's not outrageous to think that they're going that direction. Now, do I think they need to do that in Florida? Yes. I think the Hollywood Studios is the next park that needs a lot of attention. I think it's a great park, but if you know how to run that park, you're done with it. You know how they always say Animal Kingdom's a half-day park?
Right.
If you really know how to run the Disney Hollywood Studios, to me, it's a half-day park if you take out the Toy Story Mania wait time. But,
right.
They need an expansion, especially with the competition that's going on in Florida. I do think it's, the Hollywood Studios have been neglected long enough. Again, people will say like an attraction like Toy Story Mania has been put there, but that was a clone of a California attraction already. So it wasn't like they put in a whole lot of, innovation in there. They had a sound stage. They were able to, mock everything up twice and throw it in there. And it's been a great addition to the park, but it does need that next game changer. Unfortunately, based on some of the rumors, I wouldn't say unfortunately because of what the game changer is, but it looks like another clone could be the thing that's coming out to Florida, but it's one heck of a good clone.
I assume, of course, you're talking about Cars Land, Radiator Springs Racers. What did you think?
No, I was talking about the Golden Zephyr.
Yeah, boy, is that and the big wheel that they're going to put in there, man, that's going to be
exactly.
No, tell me, Cars Land, what'd you think?
Again, need a little more time, but
Right.
I think I took in enough to give it a very high thumbs up. I think the theming and the time and the effort that was put in there is top notch. I went in there kind of comparing it to what I thought about going to Harry Potter for the first time at Universal.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair comparison? I don't know, because anybody who's been to Harry Potter, they know just how amazing that section of Islands of Adventure is. So, I kind of compared it on there. I thought the attention to detail and the just the vast space of it, and uh, all the thought that was put into Cars Land was spot on. It was right up there with what I felt going through Harry Potter for the first time. So, I did not do all the attractions in there. I only had time to really get over it and do Radiator Springs Racers, and I only got to do it one time. I think that's another attraction you must do multiple times.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to do it at day. You have to do it at night.
Mm-hmm.
I did do it during the day, so I got the day experience from it, which is still very cool. But I've seen the videos at night, and that's an attraction that screams "Ride Me at Night."
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, even so much as sort of the interior scenes are sort of taking place at night, so it really blends together that way. That combined with the incredible illuminated mountain range and the waterfall and everything, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and I did not get to experience the neon of Cars Land,
Right.
which again is another night feature, and I love a good neon sign. And that section is just filled with it. So, you know, I loved it. My kids are gonna love it. We'll get to do the other two secondary attractions over there, which the Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. For what it looks like, my daughter loves the teacups,
Mm-hmm.
and this thing looks like it's a blast. For having a kid that age, like she's just going to eat it up.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I mean,
I'm looking forward to riding that with her.
I love Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. It's such a simple concept, but it's
Yep.
unique and it's just plain fun.
Yep, looks like a blast. So again, we'll be going back out there in about 2 months, and I have a feeling we'll be spending a lot of time in Cars Land.
So, tying this back to sort of our 8th anniversary here, looking at the last 8 years of sort of theme park development, there's definitely some new trends, a lot of advancements in the way attractions are being approached. I mean, you think back to, as I said earlier, Expedition Everest was certainly groundbreaking for its time. It was a great new, huge, a mountain, obviously, but also the sort of placemaking of setting the visitor into Nepal. It wasn't sort of beat you over the head. Here's a cue video. Here, we're going to tell you the story. You had to look for the story. You had to become part of it and really get that feeling from the smaller details that are throughout that cue. And I think that really set in motion a lot of that moving forward. And as you mentioned, the Wizarding World really took that to another level. Cars Land certainly is up there with that amount of detail. Looking ahead, it's exciting. It's I think over the last 8 years, sort of covering this stuff for Inside the Magic, I've had an opportunity to see the best theme park attractions that have ever been built, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
Yeah, you might want to edit this next part out because I'm about to use some very bad language. At least that's what some of our listeners will think.
Uh-huh.
But over the last 8 years, I have to admit, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey is my favorite attraction that's been made anywhere.
It is indeed an impressive attraction.
I love it. It's a wonderful ride. Next week, I'm going back out to Los Angeles again, and I'm going to get to experience Transformers for the first time, which, from what I understand, and I think you'll attest to, it's do you consider it a game changer?
Transformers, I wouldn't call a game changer unto itself just because it's so similar to Spider-Man, which has been around for a long time. But what it has done is taken Spider-Man to the next level.
And I think Spider-Man, it obviously was a game changer when it came out.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So taking that kind of technology to the next level is just mind-blowing to me. So I can't wait to do it.
What's really impressive about the Transformers attraction is that, it is an incredible emphasis on 3D projection and screens. I mean, that is the vast majority of what you're looking at. But you come off that ride, not ever thinking about that. You don't think I'm just looking at a screen. You are pulled into this, and you don't know when one screen ends and when the next one begins, whether you're going up or down or left or right, and you've completely lost all ability to sense where you are, other than exactly where they want you to feel like you are, and that is impressive unto itself. You don't necessarily. I mean, I don't want to say that screens are completely the way of the future, because there's obviously a very important part of a themed experience is having real live set pieces and things that are tangible. But what they've done with Transformers is very, very impressive.
So let me circle this back to a point where all of our Disney listeners won't just completely kill me. You have the Harry Potter experience, you have Transformers, you have, the quote unquote Harry Potter expansion and what they're doing over at the Universal Studios Florida Park coming along. What I'm getting at here is the competition at Disney to Disney has upped their game, and in return is making Disney do the same. They know they have to keep up with the competition to stay relevant in the marketplace. And in my opinion, over these last 8 years, the competition has passed Disney as far as innovation and new technologies, which means we're about to see Disney's answer. And we've seen one glimpse of it in Radiator Springs Racers, and that's a heck of a glimpse. What's next? What is Disney going to do next to up the ante? Because they have to return, serve at some point in some form or fashion. And, Disney's been amazing over the last 50, 60 years, whatever it is getting to now. What do they have up their sleeve? And none of us know what that is yet. We have little teases with Avatar, if that ever happens in Animal Kingdom. But hey, Disney and James Cameron's heads being put together to make a new, e-ticket attraction. Yeah, I'll sit back and wait and see what that ends up being. Sure. I'm interested. Let's see what they do. So that's the real kind of cool part is, Universal and the other parks have had some great rides. What's next? That's what I'm really looking forward to talking about over the next 8 years, is the new amazing attractions Disney's going to be putting out there.
It is, and a lot of people are looking at Cars Land or New Fantasyland out here and thinking, well, that's nice, but that's not quite the answer to all this, Harry Potter madness that's going on, and that's true. It's that was all in the planning kind of simultaneously with that. I mean, it's been in development for years and years. What Disney is working on now, secretively, that we don't know about, that is what we should be looking forward to.
How are the Marvel characters going to factor into all this?
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
For me, I'm geeking out fanboy over that. And the day they announced the first attraction that's going to be based on a Marvel property that they're putting into a park, obviously won't be Florida, but whatever they end up doing in California, whatever they end up doing in Paris, the day they announce it, I will be buying my ticket to be there when it opens, because it's going to be amazing. That's where they're going to put all, and even talking about Paris, look at the Ratatouille ride over there. We've seen some hints and glimpses of what this is going to be. It seems like another attraction that's going to take dark rides to the next level. I'm excited for everything across the board. And again, we've only seen a small portion of what Disney's going to do with this next generation of attractions.
Very, very true. Again, over the last 8 years, it's been a fun ride to kind of watch Disney, stay in the lead, ahead of the game constantly. Certainly the most popular theme parks in the world, continuously bringing in millions more people. And even with Universal doing very well with Harry Potter and a huge influx of cash that they're now pouring back into the parks to really up their game, the simple attendance is not there yet for them to come close to Disney. However, if you look, way in the future, you're talking another 8 years here, or even another 18 or, 20, 30 years, Disney absolutely has to come back and say, hey, no, we are the leaders in this themed entertainment game. Here's why, by launching, whatever that thing is, and preventing that sort of slow creep that Universal and the other companies are absolutely a part of.
And just so you don't get a ton of emails telling you to never have me on the show again, I know I've given a lot of love to Universal here over this last little bit, and I do think they've done a great job over the last 8 years. But if I have one day to spend in any park, it's still Epcot every day, hands down winner. So I still love my Disney. Still love them, love them, love them.
Oh, absolutely, and you know, you mentioned Epcot. I think that's a park that certainly could use a little bit of love as well. A World Showcase has barely been touched over the last. I mean, really, if you think about it, since the park opened, it's essentially the same thing.
And part of me doesn't mind that. Yeah, oddly enough, that's like it is still the way that I remember it as a kid,
Right.
which has got a kind of a cool feel to it. But at the same time, I think there's room for expansion.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, another country with some sort of amazing attraction in there, in addition to something, you know, replace Wonders of Life or whatever other room they have in Future World. Give some, you know, in addition to what we're talking about with Hollywood Studios. There's so many possibilities for injecting more excitement into the parks to also go with that nostalgia that keeps people coming back year after year.
They could put a roller coaster inside that big ball.
Yeah, that rumor's been around for quite a while, and I still think there are people who head to Epcot and think, hey, there's that cool ride. I'm going to go upside down and go to the top of the ball, and no.
They should put a Mickey sorcerer hand in the words Epcot above Spaceship Earth, so we all know where we're at all the time.
That would be an amazing idea. I don't think they've ever thought of that.
And maybe make the castle into a big birthday cake.
Ooh, I like that one.
I hope nobody from Disney's listening, because they're going to steal all my ideas.
You know, it's certainly funny. It was during the last 8 years of Inside the Magic that all of that sort of went away. Fortunately, it was just before the launch of all of this that, you know, a few years before that, the Millennium Celebration came about, and they had the 2000 over Spaceship Earth and the Sorcerer Hat and all of that. And, you know, I think over the duration of this show so far, we've seen things moving from a bizarre direction 8 years ago that, you know, everything's to a very, very positive direction from now forward.
Speaking of bizarre, we need to do a whole segment one day on the Millennium Pavilion and what attractions were in there back in the day. That was bizarre.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny to listen to sort of the lyrics of Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, and all the references to the new millennium that are built in there. I would certainly love to see a new Lagoon show there, and there's so many possibilities. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 8 years will bring.
Again, like I said, Walt's going to turn 200 one of these days. If you
Right.
keep playing that song long enough, there's going to be a new millennium.
Very true. Ben, rounding this out here, we certainly hope that you'll be back more and more over the next 8 years and beyond. Who knows how long I'm going to be doing this?
Yeah, I'll be here. Don't worry. As long as I still have an internet connection and we can talk over, amazing technologies like Skype.
Right.
Skype wasn't here 8 years ago. This is
very
wonderful
true.
now.
Very true. We were always doing the show back and forth via, FTP uploads and, the magic of the internet and all of that. And now we can actually talk to each other.
It's pretty crazy.
Indeed. Ben, got anything else to add here?
I do want to thank several listeners who have reached out to Lisa over these last several weeks. We've had a lot of listeners reaching in who've used her for planning Disney trips. Another thing that's, 8 years ago, I had no idea my wife would be a, authorized Disney vacation planner, but it's actually become pretty cool. So we actually get to do Disney on a daily basis. There's more Disney going on in my life right now than probably when I was actually working in the parks. It's crazy. But thanks to the listeners who have reached out to us. And if you're interested in having her set up your summer trip, you can reach her on Facebook at Princess Lisa Rebstock. Or you can always email me, bentheskipper@aol.com, and I can put you guys in touch.
Can I call you out here for still having an AOL email address?
Yeah, you can, but when so many people have it, it's like I can't change it. It's one of those things. I get stuck in my ways.
I think even 8 years ago when we first started talking, I thought, wait, this guy's got an AOL address, and now here we are. You moved to Gmail or something.
I tried to get it switched over to Prodigy, but...
right, of course. We were going to set up that Inside the Magic BBS, and that didn't work out so well.
That's a genius idea. We ought to revisit that.
Yeah, I still got an old, 2600 baud modem lying around somewhere.
We'll have our, one of these days. One of these days, I can't wait for, the I love the 90s type shows on VH1, what they're going to say about this last decade.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm sure podcasting will be a tiny blip on that show. They say podcasting is dead, but I don't think so. I think everybody's still enjoying this show.
when Pop Century does their expansion, there's like giant modems and stuff. It'll be fun.
Right. All right, Ben. I think we'll wrap up this, exploration of the past and the future here, and we'll have you on soon for another interesting and exciting topic.
Talk to you in 8 years.
Always great to have Skipper Ben back here on the show. And, of course, looking forward to many, many more years, not only of Inside the Magic, but also having some fun discussions with him about more fun topics as well. And I've got somebody else that you haven't heard from for quite a while here on the show to bring back here in just a minute for our 8th anniversary. But before I do that, I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to Inside the Magic. This episode is being sponsored by TouringPlans.com. If you want to save time by avoiding crowds and long lines on your Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or Universal Orlando vacation, TouringPlans.com is the solution for you. TouringPlans.com has everything you need to plan your trip, a crowd calendar for planning the best days to visit, and everything else that you might need to save time while on a vacation, including a mobile wait time app with personalized, computer-optimized touring plans. You're going to want to check out TouringPlans.com today and use discount code ITM to save 20% and start planning your stress-free vacation. And now I want to bring back somebody on the show that you haven't heard from in quite a while, somebody who I find to be particularly amusing and entertaining. And, well, I'll just let him sort of take over and reintroduce himself to all of you for our 8th anniversary show this week.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who have no idea who I am, I'm that anonymous guy. I used to contribute allegedly comic pieces to the show a few years back, usually about living in LA and visiting Disneyland. For those of you who do remember me, wow, it's been a while. The last time I strapped the old paper bag over my head to make an anonymous appearance on Inside the Magic was episode 262 in April 2010. Back then, Prince William was a bachelor and Tom Cruise was married. So, whatever became of me? Well, the short answer is fatherhood. In July 2010, I became the father to not one, but 2 anonymous babies as my wife gave birth to our twin boys. With newborns to worry about, trips to Disney became less of an option. I was now a full-time stay-at-home dad, which is better than what I was before, which was a stay-at-home guy. In fact, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, I haven't been listening to the show every week. I know. After all Ricky has done for me, how can I be such an ingrate? Well, you see, you can't really watch 2 babies with buds in your ears. And as for using the iPod dock, see, the funny thing about babies is that they would rather listen to, say, a CD of Mickey and Goofy singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star than to Ricky and the gang talking about Mickey and Goofy. I missed Disney visits and I missed the show, but other things were taking precedence. But babies get older, and friends notice when you're going through withdrawal, as my wife and I certainly were. We hadn't mantuvimos nuestras manos, pies, brazos y piernas dentro del vehículo for 2 years. So, for Christmas 2011, some friends got us Disneyland tickets, and we got to take our 18-month-old boys for their first ever Disney day. Were they too young? Yeah, probably, but Daddy wanted to ride the new Star Tours, darn it! Seriously, for that visit, the boys weren't able to enjoy it fully. They couldn't say Mickey Mouse's name. When they tried, it came out as either Meet or Mitt, and either way, that's a little disturbing. But they loved the Braloo ride, and that's Dumbo because Braloo was their elephant sound, and the Neigh ride, that's the carousel. And before too much longer, they were asking me to play the music for the Picchio and Snow White rides on every car trip. Oh, P.S. I really enjoyed the new Star Tours. I came close to vomiting, but that was due to motion sickness, not because of Jar Jar. We made 2 more visits to Disneyland in 2012, and now by the final one in August, when the boys were 2, we really clicked. The kids loved seeing the characters, going on the rides, and they even liked wearing their Mickey ears. And then we moved to Philadelphia. Yeah, my wife and I are both East Coast natives and families out here, so when a job opportunity came along, we traded in our bean sprouts for cheesesteaks. So it seemed like our Disney days were done, until my wife noticed that a conference she really wanted to attend for work just happened to be in Orlando this year. So, like many a quarterback before me, I'm going to Disney World. I am very psyched. The last time I visited Orlando was in 1988 when I was 12. Yeah, I'm old. There wasn't even an MGM Studios park then, let alone Hollywood Studios, but I assume it hasn't changed all that much. I'm sure I'll still see a lot of Roger Rabbit and the cast of Oliver and Company. Can't wait to ride Horizons. Seriously, I'm thrilled. Of course, I want to see so many of the things unique to Disney World that I've heard about on ITM and elsewhere, but more than that, I really want to experience this with my sons. Since our last time in Anaheim, the boys have become major Disney fans, and this is partly residual from our visit, partly because Disney characters and iconography are everywhere, but mostly because of something my mother found and brought to us. I speak of my old Disney See, Hear, Read records and storybooks. If anybody remembers these were short paperback illustrated versions of Disney movies and shorts that came with 33 RPM records of a narrator reading the book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear Tinkerbell's chime like this. Now, we don't usually listen to the records. The combination of them being old and scratched and the only vinyl player we have being a 25-year-old Fisher-Price toy makes them all sound like they're being read by the ghost host, but they're still great picture books, which have introduced the boys to the Disney versions of these stories. Now, I could actually record 3 or 4 segments about these books, but suffice it to say, they were a fantastic discovery. However, since they're from my own childhood, they only go up to about 1982, and so while that does mean my children will be the only ones in the entire park who know who Elliot the Dragon is when he shows up in the Electrical Parade, it also means there's 30 years worth of characters they don't know. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Stitch, Mulan, everything by Pixar. Things they're much more likely to see at the parks than, say, The Fox and the Hound. Now, while I don't mean to turn my house into a Disney trivia boot camp, I know they'll have more fun if they recognize the characters they see. So there have been books borrowed from libraries and purchased at Target and YouTube clips watched, and we're good to go. I'm hoping to record a follow-up once we're back to let you know how it went. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic Listener Feedback.
Thanks to that anonymous guy for returning this week, and he'll be back soon to sort of give a little follow-up on how his trip went, and I'm sure it will be as hilarious as ever. So now let's jump into some listener feedback. Do a few emails here before wrapping up the show. First up, a bit of a correction, I suppose, that comes in from Will from last week's show, where we were talking with the folks from Pixar Post about the world of Pixar and finding Dory, of course, on the way, and the history of Pixar films. Well, Will chimes in and says, Cars 2 did not make as much money as Cars 1, and because of this, I highly doubt we'll see a Cars 3. In fact, Cars 2 is their second less grossing film, not even breaking 200 million. I doubt Monsters University will make as much as Monsters Inc. So Will essentially chiming in about sequels in the world of Pixar. Toy Story, of course, has done very, very well over the years. Cars is a big moneymaker when it comes to merchandise, but not quite as much as the original at the box office. And then Monsters University, I agree. I think it's going to be a good film. I think it'll do well at the box office, but I don't think it will be a crazy breakout success unless it ends up being extraordinarily good. I think it's going to be a good film, but perhaps not mind-blowingly great. But I don't know. I could be wrong. It's coming out pretty soon, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Next up, an email from Marta, who writes, I'm a relatively new listener, and I've been listening to your program for less than a year, and I love it. I heard on your last program someone asked about bilingual characters, and I don't know if this serves for anything, but in Disneyland Paris, a friend and I spoke to Rapunzel and Flynn Rider in 3 languages, French, English, and Spanish, so I know that at least in Disneyland Paris, the face characters are required to know more than one language. Marta, yeah, good point. Overseas, absolutely. There's many languages being spoken in the parks on the attractions and by the characters as well. In the United States, I don't believe that. I think the point here was like, Belle, does she know French, for instance? And no, I don't think that is a requirement here in the States, but certainly to break that language barrier with guests overseas, that's very important. Next up, an email from Ryan, who writes, let's see, one, I am graduating from high school in Canada in June, and I want to work at Disneyland once I turn 18. I was wondering if you knew, or any listeners knew, how a Canadian can get a job at Disneyland. And two, what's next for Disneyland? Are there any rumors or news for a new ride? Well, Ryan, Disneyland, very different from Walt Disney World. Of course, out here at Walt Disney World, there is an international program that would probably land you over in the Canadian Pavilion at Epcot. They'd love to have those, international students or you'd be a recent graduate from high school. You could certainly join that program, come out here to Walt Disney World, work there. At Disneyland, I am not sure if there is a similar international program, and that's a stumper for me. Actually, I haven't heard anything specific of anything similar to that for Disneyland, but I'll throw it out to listeners, certainly, if any out there are perhaps international employees for the parks in California. Definitely let me know how that process works, and I'll be happy to pass that along. As far as Disneyland, that's a great question. There hasn't been sort of a what's next presentation recently. Of course, they wrapped up the 5-year expansion / improvement project for Disney California Adventure, which was a major thing, and because of that, they didn't really sort of hint what was next for Disneyland, so it is a bit of a mystery at this point. They haven't really announced anything major happening out there in California because everybody's still crazy about Cars Land and Buena Vista Street and everything California Adventure, but I have a feeling Disneyland Park will be next for something fun and something big and maybe something Marvel. I don't know. We'll see. But no, nothing concrete at the moment. And now, how about a voice message from Noah?
Hi, Ricky. It's Noah. And I will admit I don't have a question, but I do have something. I do have a little story that's kind of cool that you might find neat. So my family and I, we went to Walt Disney World a few weeks ago, and we went to Be Our Guest restaurant. And so we go in, we sit down in the main ballroom, and after we eat, I want to go and look around because I've been, waiting for it to open for forever. And so I'm looking around. It's great. I go into the West Wing. Wonderful. I go to the Rose Gallery, and it's curtained off. And I say, can I go in there? Because I want to look at it. And they're like, as long as you don't eat, sure. And so I went in. Beautiful. I mean, you already know that. It was gorgeous. And it was completely empty, except for 4 people sitting eating lunch in a corner, which I thought was kind of odd. But so I look around, take some pictures, and I pass by the 4 people sitting eating lunch, and I recognize one of them, and I say to the people with me in my party, I was like, I think that's Chris Beatty, the Senior Creative Director of Imagineering. And so I go up to him, and I'm like, I don't mean to interrupt your lunch, but didn't you create all of this? And they laughed, and he said yes. And so I got to have an impromptu meeting for about a half hour with Chris Beatty, the Senior Creative Director of Imagineering, and 3 of his colleagues whose names escape me. That's all I really had to say. I just thought it was really cool. But it was just kind of neat how they were just kind of there. And so that kind of made my trip. So I just thought I'd share that with you about my Imagineering meetup. Thanks, Ricky. Love your podcast. Bye.
Thanks very much for that call. Great story there. Chris is definitely one of the nicest Imagineers you'll ever meet. He always takes the time to go out of his way to be incredibly personable, incredibly open, and willing to talk endlessly, it seems like, about the projects that he has worked on. He's very enthusiastic, definitely a passionate guy. I've always had it's been a pleasure talking to him over the years, sort of the development of New Fantasyland and the other projects that he has worked on, and even on the Disney Parks blog meetup night at the Be Our Guest restaurant. He was scheduled to be there for a certain window of time, interacting with guests there. The last person came up, and I was watching, and I don't know how long it was. It was well over the time, maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes over the time that he was scheduled to be there. He continued to talk with the last person or group of people just until they were out of questions and just didn't have anything more to say. So, really fantastic that, somebody who's behind sort of the amazingness of the Be Our Guest restaurant and more and New Fantasyland and Storybook Circus and all that can still after the fact, go there, eat lunch, enjoy, of course, all the creations, and still want to discuss it as well. Very approachable guy, definitely. Always, if you see him in the park, definitely say hi. I'm sure he'll be willing to talk to you. So thanks for calling that in. And I'm actually going to wrap up the listener feedback there. I've got a whole lot of emails to share. I'll probably do a catch-up week one of these weeks next, or the one after that. Of course, we've got a big press event coming up, so I'll work it in there somewhere. But regardless, that is it for listener feedback this week.
There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And that's where I'm going to wrap up the 8th anniversary show, show 419. It's amazing how these numbers just keep on going. The weeks keep going by. Haven't missed a week yet since that very first show, April 13th of 2005. Think about that. Where were you in 2005 versus where are you now? I know a lot of you have been listening to the show and more recently watching the show since the very first episode. And I certainly thank all of you who have been around that long or tuned in anywhere in between or even tuned into the middle and went back to the beginning and worked your way forward. I know a lot of you have done that as well. Just that you've stuck with it week after week after week after week is amazing, and that's the reason I keep doing it every week, because I know how much everybody enjoys it, and running into you in the parks and other random places. I ran into some listeners on the Disney Dream this week who were very excited to see me there and just having a vacation, having a good time, and it's wonderful that this show has given me a chance not only to sort of speak my mind on the topics of Disney, bring some of that Disney magic out, but also meet so many great people along the way over the last 8 years. Looking forward to doing it for many more weeks and months and years to come. Of course, I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Also, check out the Capturing Magic iPhone apps to keep track of your magical memories and your photographs while you're on the trip. Search in iTunes for Capturing Magic. And our new sponsor this week, touringplans.com. Great resource. If you're going to the parks, you're wondering when you should go, what time of year you should go, and what the crowds will be like. That is their thing. That is what they do. They are great at it, and you can check it all out over at touringplans.com and use that code ITM to get that 20% discount. Of course, between episodes of this show, visit our website at insidethemagic.net. It is your source for Disney and theme park news. There was a little bit of a lull this week because I was out in the middle of the ocean, so I didn't post a whole lot from there, but everything will resume, of course, immediately now that I'm back on land, and I'll be posting, all of, in addition to podcasts, videos, photos, lots of articles, and all that good stuff, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube to keep up with all of it between episodes of this show. So thanks to all of you for listening and for watching each and every week. And have a magical week. Goodbye.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream of